folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. Thank you for listening. If you're new, thank you for taking a chance on listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it. I hope you're having a good day. Been having a pretty good run the past couple of weeks, other than a couple of spontaneous needs to buy a Fender Stratocaster. I have guitars, but when I was younger, I had a Stratocaster that I ended up selling when times got really hard, and now I'm thinking I want to get another, maybe someday. On the show today, comedian Brandon Ream, co-host of the Nostalgic Front podcast. If you like listening to me on this podcast, I was recently a guest on the Nostalgic Front, co-hosted by Brandon and Patrick Hasty. So that's a relatively new episode. You can go and check that out wherever you get your podcasts. And Brandon, I've been wanting to talk to for a while because Brandon is a comic who I find very funny. And also a guy I was curious, like kind of what he was like when he wasn't performing or in sort of riff mode. Because I don't know I'm sure some of you know, if you're around a bunch of comedians, they'll start, kind of going back and forth at a certain point. And part of why I like doing this podcast is kind of sitting down and talking to people. And it ended up being a pretty nice chat. I sort of got to some hints, I think, at the overall essence that is Brandon Ream. So it was a good chat, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. If you enjoy this podcast, feel free to leave a rating on iTunes or Stitcher. And if you are on Stitcher, you can put us in one of your favorites lists. That helps grow the show, and I certainly appreciate it. And if you're in the New York City area, I'm going to be doing a workshop version of my one-man show with my friend Sam Z. It's going to be an evening of comedic storytelling with some pathos and empathy as well. We're doing 3 shows in February. February 11th and 18th, we are at Pete's Candy Store in Williamsburg. And the 15th, we're at Branded Saloon in Prospect Heights. So I hope to see you guys there. You can follow me on Twitter at ComicWillCarey. And thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate it, whether I know you or not. So let's go to my chat with Brandon Ream.
Stuff is always fascinating.
Right. Like there's a certain level of arrogance that some of them get to.
Oh, yeah.
Where they think they're not going to get caught, so they get careless. And then there's I feel like some of them want to get caught.
Yeah.
And then there are people like the Golden State Killer that got caught recently, I think in part because of Michelle McNamara's book.
Yeah.
That's got to be a fucked up day.
Yeah.
If you're a serial killer and you got away with it for most of your life, and you're like old, and then you just hear the knock on the door and you're like police, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. The sad thing is most of them just get away with it.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of the statistics point to your Forensic Files episode is the anomaly. Like a lot of people get away with it.
Yeah.
It's kind of terrifying to think.
Well, it's like way back in the day, before forensics. I mean, that there's so many different weird little stories of like axe murderers that just roll into some random ass small town, and then bounce. Yeah, just like these big axe murder mysteries, from like the 19th century, which is weird.
Yeah, those are the kind of incidents that I think politicians are always envisioning in their head when they make some of the the laws and the one strike and you're out kind of stuff.
But
when that's like the anomaly, but the fact that it happens every so often is so terrifying.
Like one of the ones I was listening to, they had like the townspeople would just walk through the house, like a whole family got murdered, and then the next day, like the entire town is there gawking, just ruining the scene. I mean, this is before forensics and stuff, but
right.
They still made it really hard for them to catch anybody, and then they find the weird town guy as a scapegoat. And
Yeah, this is an interesting thread to jump into because so many of these, because you're from the Midwest, right?
Yeah.
So you're and you grew up in Des Moines,
Yep.
or
For the most part.
for the
Yeah.
most part, because so many of these like really twisted serial killer types are from the Midwest, and I'm curious what
Well, yeah. I mean,
about the Midwest causes this to happen because very few
probably
like
the car culture.
the car culture.
To a degree, yeah. I mean, we're driving around all the time, and they do a lot of the stuff, like especially the older ones are like, like roadside type stuff.
Uh huh.
But I just know what Gacy and Dahmer were both Iowa or in Milwaukee, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
I think Dahmer was in Milwaukee, and if you want to correct me in the comments,
Yeah.
feel free to. And I think John Wayne Gacy was
Illinois and Iowa.
Illinois, but
Like,
not
right-
Chicago. Like
He worked
outside
at
of
the
Chicago.
KFC in Waterloo, Iowa. I know that.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
I remember that because that was on his last meal was a bucket of KFC.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's always weird, too.
yeah. That's something I think about a lot too. Is the last meal requests, because you really,
They have a limit on those things. There's like a cap.
yeah,
You can't get like, filet mignon and caviar
yeah,
and shit like that.
right. And sometimes I don't even think you can get the exact thing. They'll just do what they can with what they have in the kitchen.
Yeah.
In places where you can still do that. Texas, they got rid of it completely because one guy ordered all this food and then didn't eat any of it. So he ruined it for everybody else.
What a dick. I
Yeah,
mean,
real dick
he's
move.
already a big enough dick to be put on death row,
Yeah.
but now he's,
Yeah, now he's wasting food.
yeah.
I saw this because I think about you can really get to the core of like someone's humanity when you think about what do they want to eat right before they know they're going to die.
Right.
And Timothy McVeigh wanted like mint chocolate chip ice cream. Cheeseburgers are a big request I've read.
Everlasting gobstopper. That's the loophole right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something that's going to take a long time to finish.
Uh-huh.
There's a comic I know in Baltimore named Mike Stork had this great joke about he wanted to, for the death penalty, he wanted his last meal to be like pounds of unpopped popcorn. Just eat all the seeds and then just really go out when they give him the chair.
That Stork really delivered a good joke.
Yeah. Oh, he's hilarious. He used to live in New York, but he's like just he was the first guy I met when I first started doing stand up that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to aspire to be that funny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was incredible. I don't know if you're interested in true crime, there's this guy, you can find stuff on him on the internet. His name was Brian Price. He did 15 years for I think assault and robbery, and he worked in the kitchen while he was serving his sentence. And he was the guy who made like most of the last meals in Texas for a while he was inside.
I'm more interested in not true crime, like bank heist movies.
Oh yeah,
And stuff like that,
Did you grow up watching those?
It's always more interesting when it's not real.
Oh yeah,
It's scripted, they can write whatever they want.
that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Do you feel like there's an over reliance on this is based on a true story in TV and movies now?
I mean, I think that they get away with a lot when they say based on a true story. Like, what's that even mean now? They throw that at the beginning of like almost anything,
Yeah. Well, Mitch Hedberg had that joke where he's like, "Oh, did you hear about that woman who drowned her 2 kids in a tub?" "Yes, I did, and it inspired me to write a movie about a gorilla."
Yeah.
That's just such a good joke. That was on his album he released after he died.
Do you believe in Gosh?
Do you believe in Gosh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so excited to listen to that when it came out. I was such a huge Mitch Hedberg.
Mitch was my guy.
Yeah, I kind of think that when I watch you, I sort of think that he might be your guy. Not in a you remind me exactly like him, but just like the sheer silliness and the craftsmanship.
Yeah, like
of the joke.
Well, I mean, I grew up watching on all of the hour specials and stuff like that. Like your Carlins and Pryors and Murphy, all the stuff that they drop on HBO, and you'd watch an entire hour, and it's like, in my head I wanted to be a stand-up comic, but like I can't do that.
Uh-huh. How old were you when you were watching Carlin for the first time?
Oh, probably 8
Uh-huh.
or 9 or something like that.
And what specials were these?
Probably Jammin' in New York, maybe. I'm not exactly sure.
That's a good one.
Specials for me, I know more by the clothes than the name of them.
Oh, that makes sense.
And he's wearing like a teal sweatshirt.
Oh, a teal sweatshirt. Okay.
Yeah. That's one of the first comedy specials I can really remember watching.
I think I remember that one. That might have been What Am I Doing in New Jersey, because he had like a teal
I think
shirt.
That's it. Yep.
I got that on CD recently, and as I was listening to it, he's talking about Ronald Reagan and all the indictments in the Ronald Reagan administration, and I just remember, wow, we're literally just repeating everything over and over again.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like the same arguments I've been having about the same like 5 hot button political topics my entire life, and I'm just like, I thought we resolved this already.
Oh no, it always cycles around.
I'm done talking about this.
But Hedberg was like that when I first heard Mitch all together. I was like, oh wait a minute, you mean I can do this? I do these little short jokes. You can do this.
I kind of had a similar thought when I heard him for the first time, because to me, when I first learned what stand-up was, like the concept of stand-up comedy, it was long-form storytelling or Jeff Foxworthy, which is like more like, those aren't one-liners, but they're like well-crafted chunks of
which I've had months where I tried to do that stuff, and I was like, nope, not for me.
Not for you.
Yeah.
You're just like set up, punch, set up, punch.
Yeah, I'm not much of a I'm not good at telling long stories anyways. You know how many times I start saying something and then I'm like mid-paragraph and I'm like, shit, I'm committed to this now.
Yeah, that's the hard part about like doing like storytelling is that if it's not going in like the first 2 minutes, you gotta stick with it for
exactly.
How long
My thing the whole time, I've always been the guy on the peripheral of the group that's just hanging out, listening, and and then every once in a while I throw in my zinger, and then everybody else goes back to talking about the game or whatever.
Were you that guy too? I was definitely. I was definitely.
I still am.
Guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I wonder what that is. I'm curious. What was when you were growing up in Des Moines? Because I don't know like if there's a ton going on in Des Moines. But I have this theory that if you're not in a city like that has a lot of stimulus or activities outside of outside of your office hours or school hours, that is going to help like water the garden of your imagination. So to speak. Is that what Des Moines was for you when you were growing up?
Especially growing up, it was. There wasn't much going on there. I think it's better now, or maybe I'm just less teenage cynical too. So I guess that has a good chunk to do with it, where it's like, your parents they work their ass off through their 30s to get a little bit ahead, so they move out to the suburbs. And they're like mad because you live in Yuppieville all of a sudden, and all the houses. That's what I called it. Because I was such a cool 14-year-old. But now that'd be pretty nice.
Yeah. Where I grew up is now considered like very prime plush, like DC adjacent or nearby real estate. Like I grew up like an hour or something outside of DC, and like my neighbors were like lobbyists and people who worked in the city and commuted. But when I was there, I was like, there's nothing for me to do here except play guitar, and I didn't even get into that until I was in my 10th grade. In 10th grade, there's nothing for me to do here except play video games, jerk off, and wish for something better.
I mean, Des Moines, Iowa, around the time I was growing up, their biggest export was angry metal, basically.
Oh yeah,
like Slipknot, and then that was like most of the scene there too. Was just all of the angry 90s metal.
Yeah, all of the angry 90s rock, I feel, is most of it came from the middle of the country, and then that's where the audience for it still is.
Oh yeah.
Which I kind of like. I like that I like that rock and roll didn't go completely away. It just migrated.
Yeah, that we still got all those FM radio stations that somebody's listening to, and they're packing out their places with Five Finger Death Punches and the whole Whatnots.
Oh yeah,
That's a good band, the whole Whatnots.
the whole Whatnots. I could see it. I don't know if they would be like a heavy rock band,
They
but
wouldn't.
I would think that maybe they would open for like the Squirrel Nut Zippers
Oh yeah.
or Chicago or something with a lot of horns. I'm imagining. Is what I imagine they would be.
Well, metal shows have a lot of horns.
Yeah,
That's right.
Double
Throw 'em
horn,
up.
double horns. So were you a big metalhead as a kid?
Not until like middle school, so I guess that's still being a kid. But well, I mean, I guess growing up, I was into all the '80s metal, but that didn't feel like metal. That was just like the music that was played. You know?
that was the popular music. At
Yeah.
the time. So you were like how old are you?
36.
Okay, so you're a few years older than me, but not too much. You're like 4 years older than me, but I guess enough to the point where like that would be the music of your childhood if that's what was on.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, because I think when I was like maybe 6 or 7 or 8, like it was like Nirvana was happening, but I didn't really know.
Yeah, I missed all like popular music when I was growing up for the most part, because I mean, I was listening to classic rock nonstop and the classic rock radio stations until I was, about 8th grade, and then I started getting into, Metallica and Pantera and Slayer and stuff like that.
Were your folks musical people?
Nah, not really. Outside of like putting on an album, my mom could sing back in the day, and she would do. She sang in a lot of weddings, like family weddings. They'd be like, she'd do like a heart song or something, and then so I have a really big soft spot for cheesy '80s ballads as well. Like not like hair metal ballads, but like Your Heart, Simply Red, Debbie Gibson, Phil Collins, Chicago, the Cetera era of Chicago, as opposed to like, they're more edgier early Chicago.
Totally.
When they're fresh out of music school.
Right.
No, I'm talking about when they're wearing like pastels and ballads. If you leave me now, you take away the biggest part of that type of
That's sort of like AOR.
Oh, Bryan Adams.
Oh yeah, Bryan Adams.
Richard Marx.
I don't really know his stuff that much.
Oh, he's bad.
Yeah.
Just give me a good saxophone solo, maybe palm mutes.
Yeah.
You know?
Ooh, speaking of, what about like Sailing by Christopher Cross?
Oh, yeah. See, that I more recently realized I like is what the whole yacht rock, where I've been like listening to a lot. That is my I listen to way too much Spotify, and especially at work, I always have it going. And then yacht rock is my 1 o'clock music. Get the Michael McDowell going because he's fun to sing along to.
Totally.
Yeah. And then, Christopher Cross, he's interesting because he's not a very attractive guy.
No.
Right? But in 1980, he cleaned out the Grammys.
Yeah.
Like, cleaned them out, won them all. I think he won like 9 Grammys. Like, he was the guy before Santana was the guy for getting all the Grammys.
Yeah.
And his career trajectory really went down in the next couple of years.
Right.
Because there was a little thing that came along and completely changed the entire industry in 1981, MTV.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
So then music
all of a sudden, you can't have ugly dudes selling music anymore. Image mattered. That's why they had all these Brit pop bands or whatever that were just sitting there looking pretty, being Duran Duran, and then they had all these albums that they already made videos. They were ahead of us making videos in England for whatever reason. So early MTV started. But no, I do think it's interesting that one of the reasons his career fell off is because he was ugly at the wrong time.
Not traditional.
Because if you look at like your older rock stars, like in the 70s, got a lot of ugly dudes in there.
Yeah.
You know,
like the Rolling Stones, not traditionally handsome.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think some others, like even like the old blues guys.
Oh yeah.
Not traditionally handsome. Not like Little Richard or Sammy Davis Jr. Those kind of traditionally Brett Michaels, and then again another visual medium like. All of the 80s metal is very visual.
Oh, yeah.
Like, either if it's going like the big hair or like all the leather and the studs. It's like the visual becomes a part of it.
Since they're trying to make, that's what another interesting thing is, they're trying to make all these visually like enticing music videos and stuff, trying to work on this new art form that's out there.
Yeah.
And then all of these big, bright, goyish fashions take over in the 80s too, because people are seeing them on MTV and they want to dress like Madonna, and and these people are just trying to dress that big so they get noticed, so it feeds into it like that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and I feel like that trend kind of continues because obviously like the boy bands and the girl bands and like the pop stars of like the 2000s ish. And then there's like the even like in punk rock, like all of the Green Day or Blink-182, those are friendly looking dudes compared to like NoFX or the Sex Pistols.
They are not. Yeah, Fat Mike, he's not a good looking dude. Sorry.
Yeah, and he'd probably say that. Although, and then I know it's kind of in vogue to shit on NoFX right now because everyone hates them because of the Vegas thing, but
everyone. I mean, anybody that knows NoFX.
That's kind of what I thought, because I was like, yeah, I've seen NoFX, and he said plenty of shitty. He said lots of shitty things about the crowd and the people when I saw him on Warped Tour a couple times.
Their live album is called "This Band Sucks Live."
Yeah, it's like
a part of their thing is hating stuff.
Mm-hmm. And they have their second live album was called "They've Actually Gotten Worse Live."
Yeah.
And then I found some recent concert footage of them from like a European festival, and then the comments are all like, "They've gotten even worse live." I guess that's keeping it punk rock, but it doesn't that doesn't resonate with me the way it did when I was like an angry young man.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Also, do you have siblings?
Yeah.
Okay. How many?
2 older siblings, and then 3 step siblings that came in later.
Okay. Because the reason I asked is because you said you kind of always felt like you're this guy on the periphery, like just kind of throwing jokes out.
Like a social renaissance man.
Yeah. Whereas I've always kind of felt like that was my way of trying to like get into the group. Like I'm always trying to like get into a peer group or into a circle, and then something usually happens where I don't want to be anymore, and then I withdraw. I'm almost like I sometimes feel like the social version of like Lou Ferrigno, and I'm just like, oh no, I want friends. Oh no, I don't want friends anymore.
Yeah.
It's like being a mercenary almost. And I don't know why I feel that way. But I was an only child, and then I had step siblings like came in years and years later when I was an adult. So I wasn't sure if you've ever thought about maybe what makes you feel like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm at that age now too, where you start to try and think of that stuff because you kind of know yourself.
Yeah.
At a point,
mm-hmm.
and try and so some of your weird things that set you apart from other people.
Yeah.
And that's definitely one. And it's where was I going with that little rant? But
well, you were saying, you feel like you're starting to think, and you feel like you know yourself now. You're trying to like figure out why you are the way you are.
On the flip side, you try and challenge yourself too. Get outside your, be uncomfortable and go to stuff you don't want to. For that, I love saying no. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to like try not to, and like trick myself into saying yes, because man, I blow a lot of things off if I don't.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I feel kind of the same way. I mean, I'll say yes to almost anything because I'm trying to please people, but I feel like my comfort zone is just sitting in a room alone, like either on the internet or just thinking about shit.
100%, especially living here.
Yeah.
And because I mean, I like people. I like most everybody, but God, I hate talking to people.
Yeah. Do you get anxious? You feel?
Oh, 100. Yeah, I get so anxious when people when people talk to me, because I always have the whole like, gosh, shit, what am I gonna say next? Got to keep the conversation going.
Right.
You know, I'm not feeling that right now, but you know, like when people like come up and start talking to you, and you're like, ah, shit, I was just gonna stand here looking at the wall,
right,
or leaning up against the wall for a while. Now I gotta have a conversation and try not to come off aloof.
Yeah. I always have the thing of like, oh, I kind of want people to talk to me, but if someone did, I'd have no idea how to manage it, because I'm not going to know the things to say. I'm not going to know the things they're going to want to talk about, and the things I want to talk about, like not a lot of people are into, so they're going to think I'm weird.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm into a lot of stuff that I'm only into, and
what are those things? I'm curious.
Oh, like the stuff I watch, nobody else watches.
Yeah.
I watch 10-minute YouTube clips about natural history all the time, or like I'm a big sucker for that. I like, or at least right now, I'm always in and out of everything. But I mean, I just like to learn about every dumb random thing that I can, be it casting decisions for the Transformers cartoon series back in the day, or freaking animals going extinct, and what happened there, like line
why
and
they
stuff.
go to extinct.
Yeah, and that's always crazy. Yeah, the way everything reacts off of everything, and then space too.
Yeah,
and then like geological. Just
you ever watch videos like with titles like, "What if the sun went out for 24 hours?"
Yeah.
What would
I
happen?
get sucked into all that stuff, man.
I kind of do too. Because I have very specific things I like, so I like to know everything about it. Like, I like to know about everything that happened when the Titanic sank.
Yeah.
Like all the individual stories that were going on of all these couple thousands of people. They're on the ship, and only a few hundred are going.
You know why it sank? Because the engineers didn't account for all the additional weight that the time travelers would.
Is this a Doctor Who thing?
I don't think so.
I feel like that's because there was a computer game I played that had to deal with time travel.
Yeah.
On the Titanic. Yeah, like a point and click.
Best PR decision the Titanic ever made was sinking.
Was sinking?
Yeah.
Well, definitely keeps you talking about it.
Nobody would have never remembered the Titanic,
if it didn't sink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freaking the Edmund Fitzgerald would be the highest grossing movie of all time.
Yeah. Or the Empress of Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the Lusitania.
Also, boat sinking stuff is always fascinating. Any of those, I just get sucked into all. Just I like facts.
I love like little crazy like nuanced stuff. Like I grew up playing Pokemon, like the Game Boy game, and I started playing it again. And there's this channel I follow where this guy just does deep dives into how good each Pokemon was competitively.
Yeah.
Like not just in the game, because it's very easy to just win the game with any of them, as long as you know like which ones are strong against other ones. But if you are like getting into like the mechanics of like, oh, okay, this one's a little bit faster and stronger than this one, and then if you put it with this item, and he goes through the whole history of all these ones, that's the kind of hardcore nerd shit I
get sucked into stuff like timelines, for example, where like where they start showing like the clock to be like, this is the history of the planet, and humans didn't show up until 1159, or stuff like that, where humans at their like biological level that we are now have existed for 200,000 years. you know, and we only had agriculture and civilization. Well, agriculture kind of like brought on civilization, and that's 10,000 years ago. And we never had more than 1 million people on the planet until like around 3000 BC with like one at once, and we never hit 1 billion people until 1800.
Oh yeah, what happened in 1800? Was it
just we had enough people fucking?
Okay.
But that's just when the had more to do with medicine.
Oh, like
stuff.
people living longer?
And that and not as many people dying as the kids. Because, back in the day, people, if we're talking like 18th century, 100 years before, people are having 12 kids because they got a field that needs worked or whatever.
Right. And you're probably going to lose like 3 of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of my biggest takeaways from going through my family tree is seeing all of the people that just like died right away.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Is there a lot of premature death in your 23andMe?
Well, everybody's.
Wow. Yeah. I'm gonna misquote this, but I have some lineage on my dad's side that traces back to King Henry VIII. Asterisk, like they're not sure of the history. So that kind of stuff always interests me. I don't know anything about my mom's side. I'm German on my mom's side.
What's crazy is there is one human, or there's one female that everybody is related to, and there's one male that everybody is related to. That's in our genealogical history that they were able to trace back. That 30,000 years ago, this one lady has an unbroken chain of Y chromosome that is now every person on the planet, and then there was another guy that had his X chromosome passed down through everybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something else.
This is also the type of shit that used to keep me up at night.
This is the kind of stuff I imagine if we were like friends in high school in rural Iowa, we would be like parked in a field somewhere in the back of a pickup truck, stoned out of our minds, looking at the stars, just going like, we've got to all be related to at least one lady and one guy, because that kind of stuff fascinates me. And also on a bad day will make me turn into a little bit of a nihilist, because I'm just like, yeah, what does it all matter, man?
But that's beautiful, man. Once you tear away the inherited, like the meaning that was given to you,
Yeah.
That's one of my gripes about like people think nihilism. They just get it mixed up with absurdism, where they're just like, oh, the universe is too big, so what's the point in caring? Where it's more like there's no meaning other than the meaning that you imbue on stuff.
Yeah. Well, I've decided to let it be freeing in a certain way, because
it is.
When
I think it's beautiful, man.
Because when you unshackle yourself from the quest for significance, globally and in a space sense, then you're really free, I think, to pursue what makes you happy, because that's how you'll find significance.
Yeah.
I think about this a lot with comedy recently, because, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like comedy is, there's a lot of comedy. There's so little comedy that is truly timeless.
Oh, yeah.
Like funny was funny when it was going on, was funny a couple years after it was done, is funny a generation or two afterwards.
I have too many pop culture references for my stuff to hold up. I'm going to have grandkids getting on my YouTube being like, I don't get it.
Have to put all the Wikipedia citations.
Yeah.
Because like so much of it is, or even like I'm thinking about like topical stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's, or even like the biggest comedian, like Lenny Bruce was like a important historical figure in not only the art form of stand-up, but also in the concept of free speech in America. And for me to listen to Lenny Bruce now, I'm so far removed from the time that it doesn't have that much impact on me.
Yeah.
I have more impact watching him and Miss Maisel be friends.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, that's where that's where I was like, oh, maybe I should do a storytelling show, because those are the kinds of things. And I guess like Jam in New York, Jam in New York's kind of timeless.
Oh, yeah.
I feel. So I'm curious. So you knew you early you wanted to be a stand-up.
Yeah, but I never knew how, it wasn't a real thing.
Mm-hmm. So
For a very long time. It just wasn't a thing.
okay. So take me through take me through the time where that became a tangible goal to you. Were you in how long have you been in New York?
3 years, a
3
little
years.
over.
So relatively new. And did you move from Iowa to New York?
I lived in Wisconsin for about a year and a half, around there.
So can you kind of take me through like that time leading up to the realization that I want to be a comedian?
Yeah. Well, I got fired from one of the whatever electrical company I was working for at the time, and took a pay cut and had to like kind of start over and shit. And also a big part was all of my friends by this time had all, because this is 8 years ago, so I'm 28. All of my friends that I used to just hang out with all the time are married, have kids, so it's like I'm not doing any of that. I'm starting to wonder, like, I always wanted like my thing,
So you didn't, and do you go to trade school to be an electrician?
Yep.
So that was the career path that was the job you had in mind.
Yeah, which is fine. I like my job enough. I don't like going to it, but I like what I do when they get me there.
Oh yeah, totally.
But so it's fine. But I needed something more, and I can remember it was about 8 years ago this week. I just finished. I was working out of town for a while and got back, and I had a friend that I used to play poker with, and excuse me.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, you gotta do it sometimes.
But I had a friend who I played poker with, and he was like Russian, and he was like, I'm doing stand-up comedy. And I'm doing a bad impersonation of him, but he'd do stand-up comedy, and he was a crazy Russian. I was like, how can you just decide to do stand-up comedy? You gotta, that's impossible, And then, gosh, I tried out for a sketch group.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do something. I've always enjoyed and done like theatery type stuff or like improv or whatever. And
so you've done like plays before, or like
sketches, littler plays. And then some. It was harder to do plays because I played football throughout high school. And
right.
We always had the fall production, and it's like you can't do both.
Right.
And then some of the times I was able to, but I just wanted to do something like that.
Yeah. So you were kind of searching for like, oh, this is like my thing that I do.
Yeah. So I messaged him, and he was like, "Yeah, you can do this. Try out for this sketch group." So I did that, and didn't get in. And then that was I did like help out with their show though, where I was like a stagehand and did a video, and that was like my first ever thing in comedy. Whereas like I had to do a crappy dating video, and that was a Valentine's Day show, and then I met all these people there, and found out that there was open mics for comedy, and then I guess like the very next week I went to the open mic. And it was
in Des Moines.
Yep, and it was like an event. This open mic was. There were like 200 people there. It had something going on where it was with the comedy club. So it was a big night.
It was like
everybody else had to have been like looking forward to it for a while.
Right.
I just thought this is what every open mic was.
Well, in cities that aren't New York or Los Angeles, I feel like
in Madison, Wisconsin, it absolutely is. At the they have one of the best open mics in the country.
Yeah.
When I lived there, every Wednesday night, it's 200 people ready to laugh at anything. If
That's
you just
awesome.
have something with joke structure, you're going to be like, oh, that kills.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Totally.
that's good structure.
So you went and did that.
Yeah, and it was over after that.
Uh-huh.
That's all she wrote. I was out every night that was possible doing stuff. And those are the good old days where you're just like thinking about it nonstop and just like,
Oh yeah.
except for, I mean, now you do, but it's also just like what it is, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's a certain like you're talking about it like being an event.
Yeah.
Like when I started in Maryland, the Sunday like booked open mic that had a paid headliner and everyone was hoping to get up to be the paid headliner.
Yeah.
Eventually, there's that like that was fun and that was fun to look forward to every week, and then there was the added fun of like, oh well, I got to find other places I can do stand up, and there's the kind of almost there's the kind of like drive and there's a joy in the search of it.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas as much as I love New York for the bounty of comedy that's here, there is a point where it becomes a little bit of a tired grind.
Oh, yeah. But that's the alternative that I want, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Even if sometimes I really, you know, it might be getting me down or whatever. But back home, you know, it's like, well, I did my 3 things this week. And I did everything I could, you know?
Yeah.
I went to my 2 open mics and this improv class and, you know, wrote with a friend. And that's pretty much it. Where here, it's like you're never doing enough.
Exactly.
And I like that pressure more than being able to go through your checklist and be like, well, I'm done. But yeah, I loved. I felt like we had a good little crew of everybody that started together and worked together. Like Patrick Hasty started 2 months after me. So we were like the 2 new kids on the scene, and then everybody else. There was a couple other new kids that came right after us. So
was Gideon Hambright?
oh, he was an
part of that group?
established. He had club tapes and stuff. He was kind of a big deal.
So he was the big deal. Who else? Cause you Iowa dudes all kind of roll together. So I'm like curious who else is in
Most
that
of them
group.
made it to Chicago. As far as out here, I mean, Iowa was cool because it wound up being a lot of Interstate 80 shows. So we were doing a lot of road stuff with Omaha and the Quad Cities and trading shows with everybody. And that, you know, you're less than a year in and you're driving somewhere to go do 20 minutes that you shouldn't do because you only have 3 minutes.
Like being in the car with comedians is just so
Oh,
much
yeah.
it's just the best. I have
That's how you get to be friends with people.
get to be friends with people, and there's like again like you're not the guy on the outside of the
Yeah.
of the conversation anymore. You're like in it. Like the first time me and my very funny guy named Tommy Zimbazo, and then I think it was also Jay Zek. I can't remember the other guy's name, and then a comic named Johnny Morris. We all drove to Virginia Beach to do a show, and we were doing like I think maybe 8 minutes, but we were like, oh, it's a show not in Baltimore. So we drive to the show and we're having a great time listening to comedy albums on the way down. Johnny tells the story about I find out the story about when he was in prison and a roach flew in his ear at Morning Count and he had to go to the infirmary. And then we all went to King's Dominion on the way back to the water park. You know, that kind of shit. That's where you're like, oh, this is when comics talk about the life. This is what I imagine it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've done like 2 shows in my life that involved a hotel room.
Yeah.
Those were great. Just having a hotel room because you're like, oh, I drove 2.5 hours and got paid $70. You know?
Yeah.
You don't get paid anymore, but
Yeah. I'm
I think I made more in my first 3 years in Iowa than I did in 3 years in New York.
Yeah. My paid gigs in New York are few and far between.
Oh, I don't expect it.
Oh, I don't expect it. Like one time I got handed $20 that I wasn't expecting in New York. I was like, holy shit.
What is good is getting paid with drink tickets in New York is way more practical than when you would drive 2.5 hours to go do a show back home, and then they're like, and you can drink for free, and it's like, cool, I'm driving home after this. So
Right. Uh, s- so it's like, can I borrow a thermos?
yeah,
I'll enjoy this Coors Light when I get home.
hell yeah.
Yeah, I almost wish, and I know this is probably not practical, but I would much rather, because I didn't drink in Maryland. I didn't drink until I moved to New York. I would much rather have food than drinks. I feel like that would be
The food shows, I feel like a king.
Oh my God!
When I go somewhere and they're like, oh, yeah, and you can get something off the menu. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, it's like that scene in The Grapes of Wrath where like he's been treated so shittily, and then like this company comes and they're going to treat him well for his work, and he's just like he can't handle it, like he can't process it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those. Did you ever do Kale's show Devour Hour? Oh, that was a fun show. That was at the Hank Saloon, which I think closed recently. It would be a comedy show, and then someone would bring a food to the show. And my fiance made chili for one of the shows, and there was a line to the door for the chili.
Nice.
Before the chili was gone before the show even started. So I that was a memorable food one.
Yeah, there was one back home that they I think it's called Eating It, maybe, where people have to eat something. They're given a food to eat while they're on stage. So it's like a head of lettuce. Or like somebody had a chug LaCroix. They gave me a carton of buttermilk. It didn't go well.
Yeah, I can imagine not. I think I could do the LaCroix pretty well. I once did in...
Well, they checked with people. They didn't want to... They're not trying to, like, make people spew.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I could, I pop the tabs on a couple LaCroix, do like a Stone Cold Steve Austin impression.
Oh, I could on LaCroix, not Schweppes.
Yeah.
I'm a Schweppes guy, but it's got a little bit more burn to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the trick is, and I only know this because I am kind of a old school wrestling. Well, that's not even old school pro wrestling, but I'm pretty sure like I think only maybe a mouthful of beer actually got into Austin's mouth whenever he did that. I don't think he drank the whole thing, but it looked cool as shit.
Yeah, because
glass shattering and stuff.
Yeah, he's just like those '80s bands where he's got to be bigger because he's playing a theater. It's theatrical, so you got to get the foamy beer.
Yeah.
So Joe Blow in Section 8 can see that he paid $40. He wants to see Stone Cold slam some cold ones.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whereas,
raise a little hell.
Hell yeah, dude. So you kind of get your sense of, and were you always, and when you started, were you always one-liners, or did...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got my first set on tape or on the YouTube or whatever, or my Russian friend, he got me to go and recorded it. And first joke I ever say on stage was, I was going to come out and tell a couple foreskin jokes, but I thought they'd go over your head. So, I mean, that's why, like, I've had, like, the comedic existential crisis where it's like, oh, I don't have anything to say. People are going up there and, like, that whole thing where it's like, yeah, but I never have anything to say. And, like, everything I do is, like, who I am. So, I mean, I owned up to it a while ago. But, I mean, off stage... I'm relentlessly saying dumb puns to people,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on
my girlfriend rolls her eyes at 90%. She's like, it doesn't turn off, does it? It's like I can't help it.
Yeah. Well, that's who you are. And
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I noticed that like when I did your podcast, like Pat's the straight man. He's the one asking the questions, and then you're the one with the good bits and anecdotes.
It's pretty fucked up that Patrick's a straight man, but yeah.
Well, I think there's something very important to that because every time I have tried to do politics, I never am funny. Very seldomly do I have a good political joke. But I've talked to people and hear about this. Like, there are people that do that very well, but there is something undervalued in the silly gut laugh, and like you make every time I see you perform, I'm laughing my ass off because you're not the jokes are well crafted. That's a big part of it, but also because even like really well crafted silly puns, there's there's a again that's sort of like it feels like it could maybe be like old school like Catskills kind of show business.
Yeah,
but it doesn't come off that way coming from you. That's just again similar to I think how I reacted to Mitch Hedberg. It's like you're my silly stoned friend.
Yeah. That's I mean, it's kind of the character I've been trying to perfect for about 20 plus years. Is the stoner guy that's just like words. I have no idea how those work. You know, it's just like, yeah. Like I know how to sell a dumb pun.
Yeah, so that it doesn't come off as like a dad joke.
Yeah,
it's like comes off like a real joke.
Yeah, well, it's mostly they're jokes. They're still jokes. They're not just puns. Like I remember I did the Punderdome. 'Cause people were like, "Oh, you should go do the Punderdome."
Yeah,
and both me and Kathy Humes went. We went as a team, and we got murdered by these people because they gave us like a list of things to do for puns. There's a competition pun thing, and we wrote jokes for the puns, while everybody else just kind of went through like a laundry list of like shoe puns, where like they did like 15 puns in their time period, and we did 3 jokes. And
Yeah, I had something similar. I was doing this. I can't remember the name of the show. I believe Jen Welsh co-produced it, where you're given a word and you have to write jokes that based on the word.
Yeah.
And my word was score. Now, my first thought is, most people will do sex jokes when you hear the word score. So I was like going in a musical direction. Because again, that's kind of who I am. So I had this whole bit about the guy who went to school to study music and learn composition, and his music gets put under the Oprah "I eat bread every single day" commercial.
Yeah,
and what a disappointment that is. And then the person and then the comic who went on after me, who won, was just did a bunch of very well written and executed sex jokes, but I was just like, God damn it. I don't hold too much. I don't hold too much to that kind of stuff anymore, though, because I have my things that I like to do, and I comedy wise and podcasting, and I focus on trying to be good at those things.
Yep.
So when did you decide that you were going to move to New York?
Not long after Patrick did.
Oh yeah. Was he the first one, or was Gideon?
He was the first one. Like, no, it wasn't a real thing that you could move to New York and do comedy. Then all of a sudden Patrick was like, "Hey guys, I'm going to New York. I'm moving." And then he moved, and then like half of the people that started around the same time we did moved. A lot of people went to Chicago, and everybody was just moving. And like
yeah. I guess Chicago would be a choice, or isn't LA closer technically?
No, the New York, I'm not sure. We're right in the middle, so
so it's sort of like I could go this way or could go that way.
Yeah. I chose New York because I didn't want to have a car.
Yeah, I've thought New York because I just have always thought, and I guess heard, that New York is where you go to get really good at comedy.
Yeah, and then one of my real good friends that he doesn't do comedy now, but like was like my comedy guy for the first couple of years. He moved to New York too, like 2 months after Hasty did. And then I was thinking Chicago for a little while, and then wound up just saying, well, you're gonna have to move eventually anyways, and like you know, you gotta live. That's cool to live in New York for at least some period of time.
Yeah.
So I delayed my move to New York to go be with a girl in Madison, Wisconsin. And then that didn't work out. And then I moved to New York right after we broke up. Well, we were going to move together.
Right.
And then I was like, no, we broke up, obviously. And then, so that was pretty rough. That was like the big breakup, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
man.
like, my first, I don't know, year in New York, it was a tough one to get over.
And where were you living?
I've been in Bushwick the whole time.
Yeah.
I moved in with Jack Comstock because I know him because he's an Omaha comic.
Okay.
And he was moving here like a month before me. So when I was breaking up, Hasty was like, message Jack. He's moving here. And then lived with him for, a year and a half. And then,
Yeah.
mostly just lived with comics now since I've been in New York.
Yeah. I love that exists. I didn't quite have that. I had a friend who was a year ahead of me in studying theater in college, so she was pretty helpful. And then I mostly just like went out and tried to figure stuff out myself. Like I feel like I have the personality for New York,
Right.
more than I do other places because I've been on the East Coast my entire life. There's just a sort of like, I don't want to say edginess because I'm not really that at all. Like I'm pretty much just made out of marshmallow and smiles.
Yeah.
I guess there's going back to maybe thinking.
But it is pretty nice being a big dude here, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It helps. It helps. Nobody.
I have not been fucked with once.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
I have been asked several times to walk people to the train, and that always makes me feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That people trust me to protect them.
Big privilege. That's a good one.
Yeah. Tall privilege is not often talked about. It's only in like you can reach things, but yeah, no one late at night is like looking at me like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get him.
Yeah, more so people are like trying to avoid you.
Exactly, especially like if I haven't shaved for a couple of days and I have like my hoodie up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be conscious of that. I mean, I got this big ass beard, I have the hoodie up, and sometimes I'm wearing like stuff on my way home from a construction site. So it's like covered in dirt and shit.
Right.
And it's like, I'll walk on the other side of the road than this person. So
I'm very conscious of that. Like if I find myself going the same way as like a woman,
Yeah.
I will like sometimes just stop walking and like and check my phone and
Or you do the sprint to hurry up and get in front of them. So you can like walk past them and be,
Yeah. I'll walk past people a lot, looking at my phone or like or a couple of times like if it's someone who is like in the same building, like I take my keys out also.
Oh yeah.
Try to be like up here super threatening. One other thing that I do is when I started podcasting, I try to make sure that I have some drinks available that have a factory seal. Like a pop top because I want to eliminate all possibility for something to be misconstrued as sinister.
Oh yeah.
That's all, and this is all only stuff I've worried about since I've been in New York. Because I just figure like, oh, most people know me, I'm not threatening, but no, if you don't know me, I'm a threat.
Oh yeah, totally. Most people are threatening, or
Yeah.
if you don't know them, unfortunately.
Yeah, because again, it comes back to that car culture. Just those lone axe murderers.
Yeah, especially dudes. Yeah.
Yeah, especially. So I'm curious because again, I will say this: if I'm ever in a position in my comedy career where I'm hiring people as writers, you're on my list for people I would want to submit to that because I find you very funny and
Oh hell yeah.
and good at the craft. So I just want to issue that. I'm curious because I feel like your comedy style is so like what's the way I'm looking to phrase this? I feel like it could easily be geared towards TV late night writing. Is that something you have ever thought about?
Oh, I mean, I've thought of it, but I'm always I'm really bad at doing thinking about doing something like that and then committing to it, you know, where I can get really sucked into just my couple of grinds that I'm working on and then just keep doing that. Like I mean, I really should like put a packet together or any of the stuff that all of my friends, all of our friends do that get further. I don't do, you know. I mean, I should, and I know that, but like, I run a podcast, I run a mic, I try to go to, 5 a week,
Yeah.
and just keep doing that and doing shows, and I don't hang out, and I expect that to work, and I know it doesn't, but like, yeah, I need to and should be doing way more. But then again, that's like one of the reasons I like New York is like the never ending, like, oh, I'm not doing enough stuff. But I don't know, some of that, it's also like that stuff doesn't seem real. I know I keep going to that, but like, it just, I don't know. But I should.
No, it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense to me because you talk to comedians that you talk to comedians that have that stuff, and not too many of them. There's no like magic answer to how any of that stuff happens.
Yeah.
It just kind of seems to happen as a result of being funny for long enough or being funny in the right
It's hard work, luck, and timing, basically.
Yeah, that's something I always think about. Is someone said that luck is preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah. I think I was kind of trying to paraphrase that.
Yeah. So this might be a good way to get out here. What are some things? What are some things that you aren't doing now that you want to be doing? Like, what are some like projects or dreams you have as far as comedy stuff goes?
I really need to figure that out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I love being in New York, the shitty thing about being in New York is that's a check. You know, it used to be like, oh, I'm just going to move to New York. That's the big comedy step.
Yeah.
And now, like, now I'm here, you know, and it's like, I don't know, you get better here than you would anywhere. And I mean, obviously that's a goal. I mean, I really like where I'm at. I'd like to maybe run another show or something like that. I get really jealous of the type of stuff like Patrick does. Like where he just comes up with little weird ideas for like random shows like that.
Oh, like the Muppet Christmas Carol thing?
Yeah. It's like I need, because you need a thing now in comedy. It's not enough, at least for all of us, it's not enough to just do stand-up anymore. Like, I feel like I'm not doing enough, and I run a mic, I run a show, I have a podcast that we put out 2 episodes a week, and I have my stand-up too. And I feel like I'm not doing enough shit there.
Same. I have,
but that's good. That's good, is to be doing stuff and then also feel like you're not doing enough stuff.
Yeah. It keeps it from being complacent for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of fell off. I would like to do more comedy outside of New York, because every time I leave New York to go to a city I've never been to, I remember why I love comedy. It seems like every time I've done comedy outside of New York, since living in New York, I've had great shows, and it's just been like, oh wow, that's right, I love comedy. And then you're back in New York at an open mic, listening to fucking, random shitty first year misogynist comic of the night going up, and you're like, ah, fuck, or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's 4 other people in the room, and then you do a show. You do the classic bar show where it's like, yeah, I think, do you guys still want to do it? You know, we normally get more people, you know, that type of shit. And it's like, I was just like, I had to burn half of my set a week ago in Chicago because of fucking applause breaks or something, you know?
Right.
And now I hate myself again. It took 4 days.
It can happen.
I mean, it's not like to that. I mean, I'm playing it up a little bit, but it's still like. So I mean, I need to get to these other towns where you know, this one of the best things about comedy, obviously, is you don't meet friends after the age of 25. Typically, that's the rule. Like nobody meets new friends after 25, unless they're in a group of perpetual adolescents, like all of us fucking stand-up comics that keep making friends.
Yeah, it becomes really hard and awkward to make friends when you're an adult.
Yeah.
And God forbid you ever try to have if you make a friend of like the opposite gender or gender identity, that's like immediately suspicious.
Yeah. Oh God, and that's one of the that's probably why first year comics are so misogynistic and shitty like that. I mean, is because they haven't been able to have as many platonic relationships. I mean, I'm probably just talking about my ass here, but I'm also talking from my own experience because I had my time hop. I see tweets from 8 years ago and I'm like, ugh, come on, guy. I'm glad time hop doesn't cover message boards, but like I didn't have very many platonic female friends, you know, and like having met so many awesome, strong fucking women in the last 8 years, like that's one of my biggest changes as a person is the just the empathy I've gained through comedy and just knowing so many different people. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking about like age gaps also. Like obviously like I'm in my 30s, but like I've got friends that are like 10 years older than me, 20 years older than me.
You don't even think about it.
You don't think about it at all. And where else, many other places in life can you find like really strong friendships with people that are generations older than you? And it's not like back in my day kind of thing.
Yeah. It is always kind of fucked up though when you've been like hanging out with somebody for a while and then they're doing one of their jokes and they say they're 24 and you're like, God damn it.
I'm finding that out.
Because I feel like I started comedy really late or pretty late, at least compared to a lot of people. I mean, I didn't start till I was 28, and the average age of people I probably know and hang out with is right around there, you know, and they're all fucking killers and hilarious. And it's like, I mean, I've also got a completely different idea of what making it is now as opposed to, you know, 8 years ago as well, where it's like, you know, it doesn't making it doesn't matter. I want to making it refers to my next podcast or joke, you know, like I'm just glad that I'm doing this. That's making it, is finding something that's like rewarding and challenging and like, you know, I'm never gonna stop. You know, it's what I do, so it's like if it doesn't matter as long as I'm happy with what I'm doing.
Absolutely, man. It's because you found your thing.
Yeah. You gotta find your thing.
Absolutely. This has been great. Is there anything you want to plug before we get out?
Yeah, better do the standard. Let's see, Nostalgic Front podcast.
It's a great podcast. I was just on it.
I'm a big fan. We got 2 episodes a week, got a guest, and then we do a topic. I do that with Patrick Hasty. He's been on this podcast twice. So I'm all about plugging that. I got a show second Friday of every month at Precious Metal. It's a good one. We only put up 4 comics, so everybody gets longer sets, and it's pretty fun to check that out. Also, I did another podcast with John Bilancini called 1994. It's a good listen where we just go through month by month and talk about mostly the pop culture stuff from the year 1994. And then you can follow me on the Instagrams, Twitters, and the whatnot at Reamcore. It's RAMKORE.
Yes, and Brandon Ream's hilarious on Twitter, and you'll probably see him go viral again shortly. I think. Dude, thanks for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man.
This has been great. Brandon is a hilarious comic. If you want to have him on your shows, I would highly recommend it because he will be the funniest person there and be a welcome addition to your lineup. So thank you guys for checking out my show, Between Awesome and Disaster. If you liked the show, we are on iTunes and Stitcher. Ratings and putting us in your favorites lists are greatly appreciated and are helpful. And New York City, February 11th and 18th, I'll be at Pete's Candy Store. And February 15th at Brandon's Saloon with my friend Sam Z. Part of the joy of comedy is that you got to work it out in front of people, and I hope to see some of you guys there. If you come to the show because you heard it on about it on the podcast, then please feel free to tell me about it. You can tweet me at Comic Will Carey. I would greatly appreciate it, and I will see you folks next week between Awesome and Disaster. Take care, everybody.